96.3, The Possum, your home for timeless country, and we have an incredible opportunity right now to talk to a rock and roll Hall of Famer who's going to be performing at the Paramount in Bristol coming up this Thursday, the 15th. Make sure you get your tickets at paramountbristol.org. The one and only Dave Mason is with us today. Thank you, sir, for joining the program.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Cody.
Well, it's an honor to have you. The Endangered Species Tour coming into Bristol. Very excited. Tell me about the Endangered Species.
Well, ain't many of me left.
I would say that's right. You know, you look at your name and the association with people like Eric Clapton, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, members of the Beatles. It seems like you all had a camaraderie. You would get together and play in groups. That's the first thing I thought of Endangered Species. That camaraderie, in some cases, you just don't see anymore.
Well, there was a period of time. I played with a band called Delaney and Bonnie for a long time that had I think it was the #1 record with my song Only You Know and I Know. And most of that band became Derek and the Dominoes, which I was in which I was part of at the very beginning. So yeah. There was a time when we knew each other pretty well.
Well, talking about, again, just the association with all those guys, you've done a lot of your own work, which I want to get into, and different groups you've played in, but a lot of session work as well, playing on huge albums, huge tracks. I guess that circle of friends, you just call on the people that you know are going to do a great job.
Well, most of it was just, I happened to be in the right place at the right time. To be honest with you, I finished up with playing on so many different tracks. Well, a lot of them which turned out to be pretty sort of classic tracks.
And I guess the biggest hit of your career as a songwriter, I would imagine, would be Feeling All Right, which Joe Cocker and so many people have done. You can't go anywhere without hearing that song. 50 plus years later, it's in TV commercials and everything else. I read that you were like 20 years old when you wrote that song. The fact that it still has an impact, that has to be pretty gratifying.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Anytime that something, that either becomes popular or covered, it's been covered by well over 50 major artists, and I guess every garage band has played it, and bar bands still play it. So it's lasted a long time.
Did things like that, when it comes to the melody, when you're writing a song, does it just come to you? Is that just something that you're blessed with? Like it just hit me one day, or when you look at a song or other hits that you'd had that you actually wrote, what goes into making those?
Well, I like music. I've always liked music, so I like melody, and so it's always a big part of it for me. It's just there. So I'm basically writing something that if I like it, I keep it. Whether they turn into very popular tunes or hits, whatever you want to call it, I have no idea. I'm just sort of writing what I like.
We're talking with Dave Mason, who you can see at the Paramount coming up this Thursday, the 15th. Get your tickets at paramountbristol.org. Another song I wanted to ask you about, we're predominantly a country station, and one of the songs that you had a big hit with became a big hit in country music in the 90s, We Just Disagree. Billy Dean covered that song and like I said, had a big country hit with it. Tell me about that song. It might be, other than Feeling All Right, the song our listeners are most familiar with.
Well, We Just Disagree was written by my guitar player that's been with me for 18 years, Jim Krieger. And he played it to me, said, I've got this song, I think it'd be great for you. And yes, it was like, yeah, it's a very cool tune. Great melody, great lyrics. Timeless song. I had a big hit with it back in the 76, I think.
When it comes to, growing up in England, we talk about country music. Was that a part of your life?
No, my background is more blues, jazz, and probably got more into country, or got more aware of it when I played with Delaney and Bonnie for who had a big hit with my song "Only You Know and I Know"
Mm-hmm.
again. But I've gotten a little more into it over the years. But I like real country music, bluegrass. I'm a guitar player, so there's some pickers in that whole setup. So I just love that stuff. I mean, to me, what passes for country music, popular country music, I don't quite get. It's sort of because it's like pop stuff.
Well, we don't either.
So, obviously, I'm aware of all the great Hank Williams, from people from that era, and yeah, I mean, a lot of it we would, and I would hear it and would be aware of it back in England, but most of the stuff that I was really aimed at being a guitar player for me was more the blues.
Well, I know, speaking of guitar players, a guy I read that you were friends with ended up calling on you to record songs like All Along the Watchtower, Sing on Crosstown Traffic would be Jimi Hendrix. And talk about Jimmy and just playing with him, hanging around him.
Well, I was left Traffic at the time, and we got to hang out a lot. I think he was at the time Noel Redding and he were on the outs, so that we were talking seriously about me playing bass with the Experience. So we got to hang out a lot, and that's how I pretty much turned into getting to record on All Along the Watchtower. Play the acoustic guitar part in that, and sing on Crosstown Traffic.
Awesome.
Great guitar player, but I mean, a lot of great guitar players around, but no more Jimi Hendrixes, I'm afraid.
No doubt. No doubt. We're talking with Dave Mason, who's coming to the Paramount on Thursday, ParamountBristol.org. You ended up actually moving to the U.S. and have been in the U.S. for quite some time. I think you originally moved out to California, but what was it about the U.S. that just, for the most part, you've kind of stayed here?
Well, pretty much after Traffic, I didn't really see much musically that interested me. And so I thought that I was probably 22, 21. I figured I'd go to the source, i.e. America. I mean, this is all contemporary music, comes from here. Unless it's, sort of Appalachian music, which has its roots back in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else is from America. Jazz, blues, gospel, country, you name it. It's all contemporary music. It's fostered from America. I mean, that's why I keep telling everybody when they talk about the British invasion, I would say the British invasion is an American story. I mean, all we did was copy what happened here and put a spin on it and sold it back to you. Turns you back onto your own music at the same time.
I was about to say that's the ironic thing, because people weren't listening to that old school rock and roll anymore until you guys came over from England and showed us how great it was again.
Well, and also there was black music wasn't played on white stations and vice versa. We sort of helped break all that down because we got turned on with all that music, and so we sort of grafted it into our own thing, and I guess turned everybody back onto their own heritage in a way.
Well, I know you've got some exciting projects coming up. I think I read new music is coming on the way, and you talked about Only You Know and I Know, the title of your memoir. What can you tell us about that? Has a release date been set on it? How could we grab it?
Well, there isn't any release date, unfortunately, set on it. We were with a company that was going to publish it, and they've suddenly decided that they would no longer be in the book business. And rather than look elsewhere, I've decided to self-publish it. So it's either going to be later in the year or it will be early 2024. And we're going to keep everybody posted on my website, DaveMasonMusic.com. But also, but November I get to release a record that I just did with somebody a guitar player that I love a lot, Joe Bonamassa, and I are putting out a version of Dear Mr. Fantasy, which is pretty killer.
Awesome. One more question before we let you go. I know you do a lot of charity work, and what I wanted to ask you about is Rock Our Vets. that reaches out to veterans. And tell me about Rock Our Vets.
Well, Rock Our Vets is, at the moment, it's sort of been handed over to somebody else, but we had it for quite a long time. We were more trying to provide vets with things, with stuff that they needed. But we supported military uniform, any uniform service, basically. It was our mission. As I said, at the moment, it's a little bit on hold, unfortunately. But I'm sure we'll be back in action at some point soon.
Well, there's so much more we could cover, but thank you again for being with us. And again, the Paramount in Bristol this Thursday, Dave Mason. Show starts at 7:30. Doors open at 6:30. Thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you, Cody.
The Paramount in Bristol is where you can see Dave Mason. Again, get your tickets at ParamountBristol.org. More timeless country headed your way next on 96.3 The Possum.